Please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the chamber would like to give the floor to the lead co-lawyers to put the questions to this witness. And you have 20 minutes to do so. You may proceed. Back on. Good afternoon, Mr. President, Your Honors, and thank you for ceding the floor to our team. This morning, after your judges put questions to the witness, I believe you started at 11:35, and we should have 25 minutes to do the questioning. And good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I am a lead co-lawyer for civil parties representing victims who filed complaints and submissions before this chamber. And I have a number of questions for you. And in fact, you have responded to many questions already since your testimony on the 8th of January, as well as this morning. My first series of questions to you is in relation to your time at the mobile unit. My question is the following. Can you tell the chamber while you were in the mobile unit, how was your living condition like in 1975 and early 1976? Answer. I'd like to describe my life and living condition in 1975 and 1976 as follows. In fact, initially I was asked to tend cows because my father was responsible for transporting food and food supplies. So I personally tended the cows alone while we still had private belongings. And later on, it was done for the cooperative. With the witness was interrupted by the lead co-lawyer. Questioned, while you worked in the mobile unit, how was your living condition like? Did you live in a proper house, for example? And where did you sleep? Answer. I actually slept at my house. The hard working was when I had to tend the cows. During the daytime, I had to tend the cows, and I slept at my house during the nighttime. I did not sleep at a mobile unit, and in my team, there were only 6 of us who were assigned to tend the cows. Question. You just said you did not sleep at a field or in a forest. So, who actually slept in the field or in the forest? Who were those people? Answer. There were other groups who engaged in carrying earth to build the dams, for example, a canal. Wherever they worked, they would rest there. They were not allowed to return home. Question. Did they have a proper house to stay in? Answer. Some did in the village, but the unit chief would not allow them to return. Question. What about clothing? Did you have enough clothes to wear during the times that you worked there? Answer: No, I did not have enough clothes to wear. I only had one set of clothes for 1 year, and I had to use it all day round, all day long. Question: And did it have any impact on your health? Answer: At that time, my health was rather normal. I did not really feel sick because I used to that kind of set of clothes. Sometimes I only wore shorts when I was young. Question: What about those people who became sick, or a member of your team who became sick? Was the person given any medical treatment? Answer: There was no medic there. In fact, there was a medic at the commune, but I did not actually know what happened because I myself never fell sick. Thank you, Mr. Kha. And let me ask you another set of questions on the education. On the 8th of January, you testified that there was no school, and you did a little studying under the tree. Is my recollection right? Answer: Yes, we studied under a tree, or sometimes under a coconut tree. Question: What did you study at the time? Answer: We studied about the work, the nature of the work, and the 3 tons per hectare of production. Question: Were you taught literacies or alphabets and numbers, for example? Answer: No, we were not taught literacy. There was a blackboard there, but we were not taught. Even our group chief were also illiterate. So the teacher and the students, we were all illiterate. Question: At the time that you were studying, did your teacher ever said that the Angka was your parents? Answer: Yes, because Angka was our parent, was the pillar of the nation, and we the children were like bamboo shoots or wrapped in bamboos when we grow up. Question: Were you taught what you should do with the Angka? Answer: We were asked to load Angka without any limitation. Question: What else regarding the instruction to you about the Angka? Answer: We had to love and love one another. We had to have our joint solidarity. We had to eat and live communally. Question: At that time, did you understand well who Angka was or what Angka was? Answer: I knew that Angka referred to the upper leaders or the upper echelon. Question: Now I move on to another topic. And that is the relationship between you and your parents. In your written record of interview with the OCIJ, you stated that you were allowed to visit home every 10 days. Is that correct? And also linked to this question, the 10-day period, if it really happened, who made that decision for you to go visit your parents every 10 days? Answer. In fact, the 10-day visit was only in theory. In practice, it did not happen. For example, children whose house were in Borayulosa, they could never return home to visit their parents. They had to engage in digging canal or working at the rice field in Mkolboray or Tramkok, so they would not have the chance to visit home. I never saw them coming to visit their parents. Question: the 10-day time period for visit, was it kind of a day off during the working period? Answer: the 10-day period was the time they set for us to rest, but in fact we never had a chance to do so. We still engage in working. Question: did you know this 10-day period of once a visit, did it apply elsewhere? Answer: I could not know whether it applied elsewhere. I only knew what happened at the place where I stayed. Thank you. Question: when you did not have a chance to visit your family during after the 10-day period, did you miss your family members? Answer: of course I did. And sometimes I had to run home to visit my parents, and sometimes they came after me and to bring me back. Question: can you explain to us what it meant when you said that you missed your family members? Answer: I miss my mother and I miss my father, but they were sent to work outside, and I myself, I was rather fatigued with the work that I did as well. Question: you said that you did not want to work anymore because you were tired. Did you have a choice to make, for example, whether you wanted to tend the cows or not? Answer: while I tended the cows, I was actually assigned to do so. Could you refuse? Asked by the lead co-lawyer. Answer: I had to do it. I could not refuse. Questioned: while you did the work, did you receive any benefit, for example, to receive a rise or any other benefit for you yourself or for your family members? Answer: how could we receive anything personally, because everything was communal. Even for meal, we had to eat communally. the only personal belonging was a plate and a spoon. And even if we had our own spoon and plate, it had to be maintained and kept communally. And the only focus that we were asked to do was, for me, for example, to attend the cows. I'd like to move on to another topic in relation to Buddhist religion. You stated to some length about the disrobing of the monks. And on the 8th of January at 11:37 a.m., you stated that a monk named Nun Ngat refused to disrobe. Is the name correct, the one that I just pronounced? And if so, what happened to him after he refused to disrobe? And I heard the elders said that that monk refused to disrobe. In fact, he took off the red robe, but he put on white clothing. And in 1979, he returned to monkhood at the Lanka Pagoda. At that time, I was rather young, and I only heard elder people talk about that. And there were some monks, about 10 monks, who were ordered to leave the pagoda and to come and settle in my village. And some monks decided to disrobe in order to work for the economic section. Question: do you talk about social work or the economic work, and what was the nature of that work? President, Mr. Witness, please wait till the microphone is operational. Witness, social work here I refer to collecting herbal medicine at units for the traditional treatment. I only saw he collecting those herbal medicine, but nobody actually took it or drank it. I myself did not see anyone using that herbal or traditional medicine. Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now I'd like to touch upon the issues of Krantachan, and I try to avoid repeating the questions that I put before you already. While you were at Krantachan, and you were there for almost 3 years, in general, the people who were brought into Krantachan Security Center, when were actually they brought to the center? Answer: the majority of those people who were brought to Krantachan were brought in at around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Rarely people were brought in during the daytime. And people were brought in from Nhai Nhong or Srai Nonung communes. They were actually brought in during the daytime, but for the rest of the other communes, they were brought in during night time. Question: did they put those people in different categories? For example, those who had been detained for quite some time, and those who were newly arrived. For example, in the case of your family. And so, no, there was no differentiation. Prisoners would be put until the building is full. For example, if this building could accommodate 100 prisoners, then prisoners will be brought in until that building was full, and then the rest will be put into another building. Question, you talked about buildings. Can you explain to us in details how many buildings where prisoners were detained? 1, 2, or 3 buildings? Answer, there were 3 buildings where they housed the prisoners. Question, what about those prisoners with young children or babies? Were the young children? Where were those young children or baby placed? For example, in the case of your younger siblings, were they allowed to stay with the parents? Answer, babies or young children were allowed to stay with their mothers. They were not placed elsewhere. They would stay and lie next to the mothers. Question, when a baby died, or in the case of your family member died, were you given an opportunity to make a ceremony for the death? And so nobody was allowed to make such a ceremony for the dead, because at that time Buddhist religion was prohibited, and on another hand we were put in a prison. Political lawyer, I have only a few more questions for you before my time is running out. Question, after the fall of the Democratic Cambodia regime, has you ever had a chance to return to Counterchan Security Center to find the skeleton remains of your relative? Answer, in fact, I did, but I could not find the skeleton remains of my relatives because there were so many. I was a committee member for the building of a stupa there, and we collected the bones for the religious ceremony. Question, at present, what would be your request or proposal for your family members who died at that center, or for the survival like yourself? Answer, I would like the government as well as the national and international communities to assist in building something there to symbolize those who died. My last question to you, Mr. Witness, due to the time constraint. In your response to Judge Lavange's question on gallbladder that were put or used in the wine, can you explain to us what was the purpose of putting the gallbladder in the wine? Answer, it was put in the wine for drinking purpose, to make people brave. But there were many gallbladders, and I did not know where they were used for or where they took them through. Sometimes I only saw them use 1 or 2 gallbladders only for a big container of wine. Question, you said gallbladder was used to be put in the wine for people to drink, to be brave. Was it the understanding of the militia at the Kantachan Security Center, or it was a common knowledge? President, Mr. Witness, you do not need to respond to this question. Of course, the witness will never be able to answer this question. And I think your time is running out, Mr. Lead Co-Lawyer.
Mr. President, now the Chamber gives the floor to the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia to put questions to the witness. You may now proceed. Defense for Mr. Nguyen Chia. My name is Suan Visal. Good afternoon, Your Honors. I am the defense for Mr. Nguyen Chia. Before I put my question, I would like to inform the witness that I would like to ascertain the truth, and I would like your brief responses only, since you have already responded to some question by the co-prosecutor and the lead co-lawyer. I will divide my question into 4 topics. Number one, concerning your living condition in child unit. Topic number 2 concern your arrest to security of Krang Tachan. My first question relates your living condition. When you were in a child unit, how were you selected? Mr. President, Mr. Witness, please hold on. You have to wait until the mic gets activated. Mr. Witness, children of 15 years old or under 17 years old, they were put in a child unit, and those who are above 15 years old were put in the candidate youth units. Question. On 8th January, you stated before the chamber that you were a member of the child units, and you were 15 years old at the time. At the time, were you the members of a child unit or a member of candidate youth unit? Answer. At the time, I was in the preparatory child unit. Question. In your community, how many children were there in your unit? In my preparatory unit, there were 6 of us, and other units, there were many members, and I was asked to tend the cows and cattle. Question. There were 6 of you, and were there a specific location for your work in relation to tending the cows? Answer. I would stay in the place where cattle were kept, and militiamen were with us to tend cows. Question. During the time you were in child units and tended the cows, were there any militiamen with you? Answer. There were 2 militiamen with me. Question. Thank you. You just said that you received special condition than other, and you could go to stay in your house. Is that correct? Answer. I could stay in my house because I was younger than the others. Question. I would like to quote your statement before the co-investigating judges, document D2531/31. EON in Khmer 00 16 75 11, EON 00 22 34 95. The English version. I quote, in your child units, were you allowed to go and visit your house? How many days were you allowed to visit your house? Your answer, when I was in a child unit, I was away from my family and I could not have time to visit my family. I could visit once every 10 days for 20 minutes. My question is it true that you state this to the co-investigating judge? Answer, I gave true statement to the co-investigating judge. This applies to all members in my unit. Question, you stated this, but it was not your case. It was your colleague's case. Is that true? Answer, yes, it is true. Thank you, said a lawyer. Concerning food ration, so what was your meal during the time you were in child units? Answer, we ate communally, 6 of us ate together, and other units, they had different meals together. So who cooked for your group, for your units? And where were the food from? Answer. Mr. President, court officer, please check the mic why it is off while the witness is speaking. Answer. Concerning food ration, the cooperative would send the food to each unit, and there were people responsible for going to collect the meals for all of us. Were food sufficient for you? Said Mr. Lawyer. Mr. President, please hold on. Lead co-lawyer, you may now have the floor. Lead co-lawyer, thank you, Mr. President. I listened to the questions by the defense counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia carefully, and there seems to be many repeated questions. For this reason, to save our time, I would like to ask the chamber to prohibit any repeated questions. Defense for Mr. Nguyen Chia. My questions are not repeated just because there were no questions concerning the source of foods. So my question really is to find the truth. Mr. President, the objection of lead co-lawyer is not sustained. Mr. Witness, you are ordered to respond to the last question put by the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia. Answer. We took the meals from we got the meal from our units, and the food ration would be for the members of each unit. However, food was not enough for all of us. Question. You did not have enough food. Did you have the opportunity to find and collect food to fill your stomach? Answer. I did not go and find food individually. Everything belonged to communal eating. We have to eat communally. Question. concerning your work. On 8 January, you stated in the hearing that during the democratic Cambodia, you tended only cattle. You never dug the canal or carried earth. Is that true? You stated this to the court. Answer, yes. That's what I told the court. Question, I now quoted your statement before the co-investigating judges on the 31st of October 2012. In Khmer 00 1635 11 and English EON 00 22 34 95. Question, during the time, what did you do? Your answer, I was asked to carry cow dung and to make the canal. My question is that your answer? Answer. As for carrying and picking up cow dung, I had to do it because I was asked to tend the cattle. And as for digging the canal, it's also true that I also did that work. Question, during the time you were in your child unit, had you got the opportunity to communicate with your family? Mr. President, Mr. Witness, please hold on and wait for the light of the microphone. Answer. I tended the cattle, so I could come and could go to see my parents. And as I said, I was allowed to stay at home because I was young at the time. Question, what did your parents do at the time? Answer, my father was asked to fix the machine to mill rice and to make the bamboo carriers for carrying rice. And as for my mother, she was asked to take care of the babies. My question, so where were your parents' cooperatives? How was it from your house? How far was it from your house? Answer, it was 100 meters away from my house. Answered by the witness. Question, concerning your arrests. You said you were arrested in June 1976. At the time, how many people were arrested? The arrest of my family members, my mother and I were arrested. 10 members of my family were arrested, and Jason family members were also arrested, 4 of them. Question, so your family member, 12 of them were arrested. Is that correct? Answer, yes, it is correct. Question, I would like to quote your statement before the co-investigating judge, document D25/31, in Khmer 001635 13, English EON 0022 34 96. I quote, when I returned from tending the cattle, I could see the militiamen walk my family members, and I was asked to go with my mother. Among these people, there were my mother, my siblings and I, including me, there were 8 of us, and 5 villagers were also arrested at the time. Is that correct? You stated this to the co-investigating judge. Mr. President, witness, could you repeat your answer? If you speak without the mic turning on, only 2 of you could hear. Answer. It is correct, the statement that you have just read. Question. You were sent to Krang Tachan Security Office or prison. Upon arrival, how were you treated? Answer. There was the one who brought me into the building when I arrived at the gate. And my mother and my elder sisters were handcuffed or shackled. Question. You arrived there for 20 or 25 days. You were put there for 20 or 25 days. How were you treated in that period? During the period of 25 to 30 days, nothing happened to me. My mother was interrogated and I was not yet released to work outside the prison. Question. Why were you allowed to be out of the prison? Why were you not detained? Did you know? Answer, I do not know. I do not know why I was allowed to stay outside of the prison, and at night time I was asked to hunt for birds or animals and to look for frogs. That's what I knew at the time. Question. Besides you, were this applied to other prisoners? Answer. Ta Chen, Ta San, Sok San, Sok Sot. They were released in 1977. San Ta Chen and I were released at the same time. When you were allowed to be out of the security office, what were you asked to do? Question. Answer. I was asked to tend 2 cows and 4 water buffaloes. Were there any other person go to tend cow and cattle with you at the time? Answer. There were no other people with me. Sok San, he could climb up the sugar palm tree to collect the fruit. Question. Where were you assigned to tend your cattle at the time? Answer. There was no limit concerning the area I had to tend the cattle as long as I could return at 5 o'clock in the evening. Question. What time did you go to tend your water buffaloes? Answer. In the afternoon, I went to tend the cattle at 1 or perhaps 2 p.m. when the weather is not so hot for us. Question. You receive a freedom to move. Were you allowed to move freely in the whole compound of the security office, or were there limits to the area you can walk? Answer: I was not limited to walk in specific areas, as long as I could tend the cattle and I could take care of the cattle, and it was fine for me. My question is, in the prison compound, could you move freely in that compound? Could you visit any of the buildings there? Answer: I could move freely. I could enter anywhere I can, because during night time I was asked to collect meals from the kitchen, and in the daytime I was asked to collect water lily, or to collect tamarind leaves, or to find frogs. I could walk anywhere I could. Question: it means that you have the same rights as other guards in that place. Is that true? Mr. President, could you ask a proper question? When you talk about your question seems to be confused. The rights or the authorization is different from each other in Khmer term. Lawyer: do you have rights? Do you have the same right as those of the guards in the prison? Answer: I was told that if I ran away from my parents would be killed, and I was allowed to move freely. And I was told that if I ran away from my parents for a few months, my parents would be killed, so I dare not go anywhere. During daytime, while I was tending the cattle, I only go to some certain area to allow the cattle to be fed. Question: were there any rules or disciplines applied for prisoners? Answer: prisoner, there were disciplines applied to prisoner. They were not allowed to talk to each other. They were not allowed to move. They would be beaten if they move or talk to each other. Question: I have a few questions more concerning the location of the prison. You stated already, but it was not clear. It is not clear to me. What is the building like? Answer: the building has a roof, and there below the roof there were barbed wires, and there were barbed wire fences also. The floor were made out of wood. The distance from the building, how far was it from each other? Asked by a lawyer. Answer: two buildings attached to each other, and there are some buildings which were 15 meters away from each other. And where was the kitchen? Answer: the kitchen was in the middle of the compound, and the kitchen of the prisoner was in the middle of the compound, and the kitchen for guards was to the east. Question: you stated that there were two levels of fences. And how were they built? Answer. They were made out of wood and they were covered with barbed wires. From the level 1 of fence to the second level, so how far was it from each other? Answer. The distance from the first level of fences and to the second level was about 200 meters away from each other. Question. When you were put in the prison, were there any trees or forests surrounding the prison? Answer. There were deal trees and there were trunk trees. Question. So there were no dense forests, or were there only tall trees as mentioned by you? Answer. The forests were not so dense. There were large trees, and the execution area were covered with coconut leaves. Question. Thank you for your response. To save our time, I have a few more questions in relation to execution of people. You stated before the co-investigating judges, I quote, document D25/31 in English, Khmer EON 00163516 and English EON 00223499. You stated that during the execution you could see the incident. At the time you climbed up the tree to see the execution. The tree was 5 meters away from the execution site. You could see everything there. I quote. Question. When you saw the execution, how far was it from the execution site? And your answer is that it was 5 meters away from the execution site. Is that your answer? Witness. It is my answer. That is correct. Lawyer. Thank you. I would like you to reconsider your statement. How far was it from you to Mr. President? Answer. It is about 7 or 8 meters. Lawyer. From my estimate, it is about 10 meters. So it means that when you saw the incident, you were in the middle between you and Mr. President. Is that correct? Mr. President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you may now have the floor.
Mr. President, I'm not sure whether the counsel and the witness are speaking quite quickly, so I'm not sure if something is being missed in the English translation, but it seemed as if counsel was testifying himself about the distance, and I'd object on that basis. If that is not the case, then we are missing some of the statements that are coming from the witness because they are speaking too quickly.
President, thank you, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, for your observation. And Defense Counsel, you may continue, and please leave a sufficient pause between question and answer session so that interpreters could do their job. And also, Mr. Witness, you should only respond when you see the red light on the tip of the microphone. Your microphone is operated by the AV personnel. You may proceed now, Defense Counsel. Defense Counsel. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, for your observation. I try to slow down my pace. And the witness has not yet responded to my question, and I urge him to do so, Mr. President. Witness, could you please repeat your question? The question that I put to you is that while you were looking or watching the killing, you said you were 5 meters away, and the distance, based on my estimation, between the bench and you is about 10 meters. My question to you is that the distance that you refer to as 5 meters means you are in the middle between you and the bench right now? President, Mr. Witness, please wait until the microphone is operational. Witness, I estimated that the distance between me and the killing site was about 5 meters. And at that time, one of the executioners actually pointed a finger at me to chase me away. Question. So while you were watching, you were also seen by the executioners, and you were not afraid of the killing? Is that true? So does it mean that you don't need to steal a look, but you could look freely? Is that correct? Answer. In fact, I was rather scared as I was threatened. And I was warned that next time I should not go and look at that event. In fact, I did not intend to do so, but I was tending my cows. Question. When you were actually stealing a look, how long did you look? Answer. It took me about 10 minutes to do so. Question. This morning you testified that for the killings, sometimes 50 to 100 prisoners were killed at a time. And you said that you spent about 10 minutes watching the killing. How many prisoners were killed during the 10-minute period? Answer. I knew the number of prisoners when they were brought in, because when they were brought in, they were counted, and they would be registered into the list. Counsel interrupt. So when the prisoners were brought in, you could also look at the registry. Did you have the right to do so? Answer. I did not have a right to do so, but I heard that they talking about the number of people. For example, today 100 prisoners were brought in, or on the other day 30 people were brought in. And of course you could see people were brought in. Sometimes 2 sets of them were brought in, sometimes 3 sets of them were brought in during a night. And sometimes, or each time, there could be 20 of them, 30 of them, or 10 of them. Question. Does it mean that the prison guards actually trusted you while they were working, since you seem to know the in and out of their work? Answer. They trusted me because I never talked to anyone else about what happened, because I knew if I talked about it, then I would be in trouble. Counsel, thank you, Mr. Witness, for answering my questions, and my colleague will continue putting more questions to you. Thank you. President, thank you, and the time is appropriate for a short break. We will take a 20-minute break, and we will adjourn at 5 to 3 to continue our proceedings. Court officer, could you arrange a proper accommodation for the refreshment for this witness during the adjournment, and bring him back at 5 to 3.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រងឈរ